Today we're going to discuss which class you should use in Terraria. And the classes in Terraria are pretty much melee, ranged, magic, summoning, and classless. And we won't discover classless too much here in this video, but I will say to you that if you're new to Terraria and you haven't played the game before, or if it's your first time playing expert mode or master mode, do classless, which means you have access to every item in the game and you don't have to worry about limiting yourself to individual items. Technically, there is a subcategory called True Melee, where you're not allowed to use any weapons, for example, like the enchanted sword that shoots projectiles, but we're just going to stick to the main classes today. My favorite class in Terraria is actually a mixed class, and that is magic summoning, which you can do. You can mix classes together. You don't have to just have one. You make the rules in your own playthroughs. So magic summoning is really fun because you obviously get to attack using your own magic attacks, and your summons also attack too, and you're kind of set up to be a mage and really take care of enemies. If you want to do a ranged playthrough, it's probably the easiest playthrough to do for, say, newer players or people who haven't set themselves goals yet with classes. And I will kind of show you why in a few moments. But first of all, we're going to start off with melee. So these are all the pre-bosses items that you can get for each class. And the melee class, I always go Star Fury first, and then maybe Enchanted Sword. And then for pre-Wall of Flesh, yeah, I usually do go for the Knight's Edge. It's definitely the best melee weapon to actually take out the Wall of Flesh. And then you are pretty much going for Molten Armor as normal, and Magma Stone for accessories. All buffs pretty much. You want to have them all. You don't want to leave yourself without any buffs. This list also does pre-mechanical bosses, and as we go down the list, it's recommending some items like the banana ring. I usually go for the icicle actually, because a lot of the ingredients here, a lot of the items here, they're not great. The Shadow Flame knife is very good too, but I don't really go for the banana ring or the drippler or crippler. It's completely up to you what you go for. This is going to be the hardest one for a lot of melee players, and that is Plantera, because there's just so much distance between you and the boss. True Knight's Edge or Deathsicle, I'd recommend. They kind of nerfed Deathsicle a little bit. It's not as good as it used to be, but I still usually go for the Deathsicle here. And then of course you're up in your armor to turtle armor as well. And by now you should have the mechanical glove, the fire gauntlet. You're pretty much getting really strong now. Vampire knives for me, 100%. It doesn't matter which one you go for, by the way. I'm just showing you all of them. And I always go vampire knives, hallowed armor, or turtle armor, of course. You're getting some really good accessories now as well. And as I said, always use the best buffs. You don't have to just use these ones. For the lunar events themselves, I'm still on vampire knives the entire time. The vampire knives will only change as soon as I am about to fight Moonlord. Beetle armor by now, and you're starting to get some really good items. So for endgame, you have the Zenith, of course, you have the Star Wrath, and you have Solar Flare armor. And for some reason, it didn't show the other items that you get. I actually used the solar items from the solar pillar to kill Moonlord itself, so I'm very surprised that's not actually in here, but they don't even recommend it, do they? But yeah, for melee, 100% I'm getting the solar weapons. Ranged is definitely my favorite category. Some of my favorite items are in here, and I pretty much get started with the boomstick, and it doesn't really matter what armor you get this early on. And I also pick up some bows. I like, for example, use the platinum bow a lot, and I get plenty of ammunition. I don't really use any of these when it comes to this part of the game. I usually go straight for the bee's knees. I'm surprised it's not recommended here, and the bee nades are recommended, so it's obviously, we're obviously at a point where the bee's knees has been collected. I wonder why they don't recommend that. It's not classified as a summoner weapon, is it? Pre-mechanical bosses, Daedalus Stormbow 100% with Holy Arrows. That's going to take out the mechanical bosses for you. And I don't really use any of the other weapons here, I have to say. Maybe I should start using something different other than the Stormbow, so that I can kind of get some variety in my ranged playthroughs. Mega Shark, 100%. The Mega Shark becomes my next weapon with Glorified Bullets, and sometimes I use the Glorified Shot Bow, but it's pretty much always the Mega Shark. I'm still using the Mega Shark all the way up until Golem, and I kill Golem with it. There are some recommendations here as well if you want to try some. I probably, once again, should start branching out and get some of these because I never use them, and I should do a bit of variety, I think. Pre-lunar, I usually go for the Xenopopper. It's one of my favorite weapons, or the Tsunami, for example. And yeah, I think that's pretty much my two main ones. I don't usually use the other ones in here. Maybe I should, once again, get the Eventide, for example. Then I get the Vortex Beater from Moonlord, and I use Glorified Bullets, and yeah, you destroy Moonlord by doing that. So that's pretty much range for me. Range is very simple. You don't have to worry too much when you're doing a range playthrough. So then we have the magic section, and my go-to there is the Vile Thorn. And when it comes to magic, it's mostly about your armor. So if you can get your hands, for example, on the Mystic Robe, that's going to be very useful. And accessories as well. Celestial Cuffs, Magic Cuffs, Mana Regeneration Band, Mana Flower, whatever you can get your hands on there. I think when it comes to the magic playthroughs, it's all about the accessories and the armor. Pre-Wall of Flesh, I mean, I'm going over to the Space Gun 100% with the Meteor Armor, and I'm using the Vile Thorn up until then with the Demon Side, of course. So you can't really go wrong. B-Gun as well if you have to kill Skeletron, or if you are looking to just get an extra bit of damage, bit of summon damage, and you just haven't got the Space Gun yet, go for the B-Gun. The Meteor Armor, of course, to give you unlimited ammo on the Space Gun, and of course your accessories. So this is probably the weakest area for magic in my opinion, because you are pre-max and none of the items that you were using before are going to work anymore. They're not strong enough. I use the Meteor Staff usually, or I will try and get the Crystal Serpent. I definitely have the Nimbus Rod as a backup, and you're just going to have to try and get as many items together as you can. The Spirit Flame is also quite good. The Life Drain is really good if you can get the Life Drain as a mage. Pre-Plantera, you're looking at the Unholy Trident, looking at the Venom Staff. Obviously, you still have the Nimbus Rod. Hopefully, you have the Life Drain by now. Really good items just to get you through this area. A lot of people go for the Golden Shower, of course. For pre-Golem, you have to be getting your Rainbow Gun, because that's going to be huge against Golem since he kind of stays in one place. Your Shadow Beam Staff, your Inferno Fork. There's a lot of items here that you can use. Now you're getting your Spectre Armors. You're starting to become really strong. And now we're going to move on to the pre-lunar events. You have your Razor Blade Typhoon, your Razor Pine. You have your Blizzard Staff. You're really becoming a force at this point. Your mana is through the roof. You have so much damage. And yeah, this is the point of the game now where you're going to start becoming one of the strongest classes in the game. This is endgame. You're super powerful at this point. You have your Nebula Armor. You have your Nebula Blaze. You have your Last Prism, Lunar Flare. You are just unstoppable at this point. Magic late game is insane. So if you decided to go for a mage playthrough, you are now super powerful. So we have our summoning playthrough, which is, in my opinion, the most fun playthrough. You're not as strong, especially in the early stages, but it's just so much fun having your summons. And we're going to get you started with your whips, your Snap Thorn, for example. And then when it comes to the summoning items themselves, you got your Flink Staff, and of course you have your Abigail's Flower. So starting a summon playthrough means that you don't have a weapon at the beginning of the game. And most people would allow themselves to get the Slime Staff and bring that into the world with them. But you don't need to do that anymore because of Abigail's Flower. And this is actually one of the only items where I'm going to tell you where to get it. Abigail's Flower can spawn on the ground on your map next to a gravestone. So if you die just once, then you can actually get Abigail's Flower, and it's a summon that's just similar to the Slime Staff, or similar to the slime in general, the slime summon, but is pretty much free to get because the Slime Staff is so rare. So I'd recommend Abigail's Flower to start you off with the summoning. And of course you have the rest, as I mentioned already. Once again, your armor is going to be very important because your armor is going to determine how many summons you have and how strong you are. And obviously your buffs are going to be huge too. So we have the Ib staff here with the Snapthorn for pre-Wall of Flesh. That's usually what I go for. B armor, you have the Pygmy necklace, and you're using your summoning potions, and you're using your bewitching table as well. Pre-mech bosses for me is always the spider staff, and then you could use the firecracker or the cool whip as well with the spider armor and the Sombra emblem at this point too. For pre-Plantera, I'm always using the optic staff personally with a good whip, and of course you could use whichever one you're mostly interested in, and you can go for Hallowed armor now instead of the spider armor as well. Pre-golem, I'm always on the Raven staff, and obviously I'm using whips as well, or I'm on the Desert Tiger staff, which is so good. It's one of my favorite summons in the entire game. So I recommend the Desert Tiger staff. And now you're on Tiki armor or Spooky armor, so pre-golem, you're going to be nice and strong. Pre-lunar events, the game recommendation actually has the Terror Prism in there. Are they having a laugh? Are they lunatics or what? Anyway, I am going to forget about that and just say I get the Xeno staff, or I'm on the Desert Tiger staff still, and we are going to take out the pre-lunar events and move straight down to endgame, and we're going to have the Stardust Dragon staff, which is usually the item that I use myself to kill the Moonlord. And then of course you get the Terror Prism. I don't understand why they recommended the Terror Prism earlier. So that's pretty much what I use to get through a summoner playthrough. As I said at the very beginning, it depends on whether you want to do classes in your playthroughs. I like doing classes for a little bit of a challenge. It also makes you use new items that you have never used before, which is fantastic. Otherwise, you're just going to use the same items every single time you play Terraria. And one of my favorite combinations is Magic Summoner. You can obviously do ranged and magic as well if you like, or melee and magic, whatever combination you like. And of course, if you play modded Terraria, there's even more types of classes as well, like the Bard class and the Healing class. So let me know which class is your favorite in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching today's video, and enjoy the rest of your day.